The playoffs start today, and I have 7 things worth watching as the Kansas City Chiefs gear up to take on the Houston Texans. There are 7 talking points, and one is a very in-depth talking point, so we're going to get right into it. The number one thing worth watching here today is that this is the season. Nothing up to this point counted, and that's such a shame for those 15 wins, right? Well, as Nick Wright is one to point out, the Kansas City Chiefs season starts at the divisional round of the playoffs, and that is right now. The Kansas City Chiefs took on the Houston Texans just a few weeks ago, and it was a fairly dominant performance, but it was a dominant performance that unraveled as the game went on. The Texans are without one of their key contributors from that game due to an injury. Unfortunate, but it is the reality of things. The Kansas City Chiefs should be primed and ready for this game as they are coming into this week very well rested. And while I told you after the final win of the regular season that what would happen as we got close to the playoffs is that people would be asking whether or not the Kansas City Chiefs will be rusty going into the playoffs. That was the next talking point that was going to come up from the mainstream media. And, well, it happened, guys, and that's all we have heard for the past week. I don't think that is going to be the case. I don't think that is going to be the case even for someone like Chris Jones, who has been off for an extended period of time. And he's going to come into this game ready and raring, as will all of these Kansas City Chiefs. So this being the NFL year kicked off months ago, but the season starts today. Everyone in that building knows that these Chiefs are playing for immortality. Whether Travis Kelce says that anyone in the building is talking about a three-peat or not, that is what is on the line. The number 2 thing worth watching here is more microcosm than that. How much does Jaylen Watson play? An absolutely phenomenal return to action regardless of the number of snaps that we see Jaylen Watson. Jaylen Watson's presence in this defense was massive in the first part of this season, but he went down with injury, and the Chiefs have been scrambling at the number 2 cornerback position ever since. Najee Johnson has a whole lot of tools, but he gave up a rating when targeted of over 100, as this season really did turn out. I think Joshua Williams has a lot of tools as well, but the coaching staff seems to have lost a great deal of confidence in Joshua Williams. So with Jaylen Watson on his way back, the guy that the coaching staff did not want to start for some reason coming into the year, even if we see him only for a handful of snaps, that is a player the Texans did not have to contend with last time when they had their number 1 wide receiver. So not having their number 1 wide receiver and having our number 2 cornerback back, at least as far as talent is concerned, I'm not sure the snaps will be there this week. Having the number 2 cornerback back for the Kansas City Chiefs means that the Kansas City Chiefs will have their number 1 cornerback, Trent McDuffie, lined up against the Texans' number 2 wide receiver, and the Texans' number 3 wide receiver will, at least at times, be going up against the number 2 corner for the Kansas City Chiefs. So the defensive back depth once again becomes a strength for the Kansas City Chiefs as they move into the divisional round of the playoffs and hopefully on to the AFC Championship game. Now, here's the big talking point, and it's something that is not an immediate thing for the Chiefs, but as we're talking about the Chiefs approaching a three-peat, we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs dynasty. We're talking about a team that has been to 6 consecutive AFC championships, 1 win away from going to 7 consecutive AFC championships, and this rookie class was perhaps a bit underwhelming. The rookies on this team have not played all that big a role at this point, but one of the things that is keeping the Chiefs so good for so long is the fact that rookies get an extra month of development in their rookie season because they play for the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a double-edged sword, because over the past 5 years or so, guys like Travis Kelce have played 6 seasons of NFL football. That wears on them, but the added sugar at the end of the year for these rookies really does lead into the development that they will, their development moving forward. Xavier Worthy, starting there, has been in the team's game plan since week 1, but his role has grown over the last month. He is getting more action, more involvement, more of a spotlight in this offense, even with Hollywood Brown coming back. The transformation that Rashee Rice saw in the playoffs last year and heading into the beginning of the season this year was massive. You look at Rashee Rice, he was a nice piece during the regular season last year. You threw him the ball at the line of scrimmage and saw how much damage he could do. Once the playoffs started, he took that next step and was running more of these intermediate type routes, running more routes across the field, getting open that way, and became a weapon in the offense as opposed to just a wide receiver. The beginning of this year, we saw Rashee Rice take that next step, and he was getting targets downfield. So, should we see that next step forward in the playoffs for Xavier Worthy? We could see the third step that Rashee Rice took coming into this season from Xavier Worthy next year as well. And the thing that would be massive with that is the fact that the Chiefs' wide receiver problem could have one solution stuck into those slots for the next 4 seasons. You want to have 3 guys that you can count on in a wide receiver core. If you have a couple stars among them, it really does wonders for your offense. If you can get a 4th guy in there that is a weapon, that is at least able to do certain things, your offense kind of becomes unstoppable. Rashee Rice eventually will come back from injury and suspension. That is an answer there, so long as he does not become diminished in his time away from football. Xavier Worthy being an answer there means that you have 2 slots that you have to figure something out with. And there might be a couple of those guys on the team already. I really like Nico Remigio as that 4th guy. And if you can get someone on the roster that makes Nico Remigio the 5th guy, then you probably have a pretty stacked wide receiver core. Jaden Hicks. Jaden Hicks saw more than 20 snaps just one time in the first 11 weeks of the season. But over the last 6 weeks of the season, he never played fewer than 24 snaps, and he saw 53 snaps of defensive action in the penultimate game of the year, and then 74 snaps the final week of the season. Hicks is an ascending talent, and I think he could be a playmaker in 2025. I think that he could be one of the staples of the defense in 2025, and he could be a superstar in 2026. I think that the tools that he has and his aggression on the defensive side of the ball are things that are fairly rare, but when you get a guy that can execute on them, that becomes something that is exceedingly rare. Then we are heading into the sort of the woeful row, I would call it. Kingsley Suamataia, Hunter Nourzad, CJ Hansen, and Ethan Driscoll, 4 offensive linemen, none of which probably figure to play at all in the playoffs. But that does not mean that the playoffs are lost for them, that this time is lost for them. None of these guys are turning to figure heavily into the team's plans for the postseason, but next season it is likely that the right guard position is open, the left tackle position will be open, and we have to imagine that the right tackle position will at least, please God, be in contention. An extension of the season for these 4 guys is invaluable to their development and the odds that one of them claims a starting spot next year. There are 3 potential places up for grabs on that offensive line. Should one of these guys claim even one of them, it will be a win for the Chiefs moving forward. This is all of these guys' rookie seasons. All the Kingsley Suamataia, Hunter Nourzad, and CJ Hansen are on 4-year rookie deals. Ethan Driscoll is on a 3-year UDFA drill contract. Did I call them drills? What was I doing? Anyway, there are multiple years left on the contracts for all of these players, and the Chiefs have had myriad questions along the offensive line for so long now because it's just not that easy to find 5 guys that you trust out there. So one of them, even one of them, claiming a starting position could be massive for the franchise writ large. Then there is Christian Roland Wallace. He has played in all 17 games and even started 2 of them. He's accumulated 194 defensive snaps and 249 special team snaps as an undrafted rookie free agent. Anything Roland Wallace contributes is a plus. I have talked about it multiple times on the channel. My biggest regret in the history of the channel. Every year I do videos dedicated to each of the draft picks and videos dedicated to each of the UDFA that I think A, will make the team, or B, are sufficiently interesting. And I skipped it for Christian Roland Wallace this past season, despite the fact that in the video I made over all of the UDFA, I said, hey, this guy's an NFL player. I just don't think he's going to be with the Kansas City Chiefs because there's just so much talented defensive back for the Kansas City Chiefs. I was wrong. I should have made that video. But Christian Roland Wallace actually looks to be a regular teams level talent at the NFL level, and extending his year will pay dividends over the next 2 seasons. He's on a 3-year contract as offered to UDFA. Carson Steele, another UDFA, another rookie, has found himself as the odd man out in the backfield for the Kansas City Chiefs. Still, it is telling that the Chiefs have kept him on the roster in order that his UDFA contract remains intact. And the team controls him for the next 2 seasons as well. So his experience and productivity are gravy for the organization. Andy Reid, as we all know, loves to have a fullback on the roster. There was a couple-year hiatus there where no one fit the bill, but now they have Carson Steele able to come in and take that. The big thing for him over the next however many weeks the Kansas City Chiefs are still playing, hopefully through the Super Bowl, is studying film and picking up the blocking concepts. He could be an absolutely devastating blocker. He's very willing to put himself out there in that way, and he's stout, strong, fast enough. He could be an asset to the team as a fullback rather than just a fullback on the roster. Swayze Bozeman. This is a rookie that I always forget about. Though I don't believe his UDFA contract is intact, right, because of the practice squad implications of that. He's played just 7 defensive snaps this year and 57 special team snaps. Neither of those are terribly many, but the Chiefs love to have a few linebackers around. They keep a lot more linebackers than they actually play. And Jack Cochran's UDFA contract is up after this season. Swayze Bozeman could be that next linebacker that is sort of bouncing around the roster between the practice squad and the regular squad. He could be the next Jack Cochran on the roster, who is just a special teams ace and eventually gets some reps as a defensive player as well. Then there's Fabian Levette. Fabian Levette is just a practice squad guy, but he is someone that I believe does have a future in the NFL. I think he is a defensive lineman that will factor onto the Kansas City Chiefs roster next season, and he may be the next Turk Wharton. I think Turk Wharton is in line to get paid this coming season with all of the attention that Chris Jones took this year. So I don't see the Kansas City Chiefs being able to match the money that will be thrown at Turk Wharton. Fabian Levette has a chance learning more of the Chiefs playbook, showing the Kansas City Chiefs coaching staff more of what he can do over however much longer the Kansas City Chiefs are active this season to stand a better chance on the roster moving forward. How, the next idea here, how does Harrison Butker look? Harrison Butker has not looked himself since coming back from his stint on the IR. The coaching staff does not seem worried about it, but a lot of times with kickers, it is a crisis of confidence, not a crisis of the tools. So if you were the coaches and you were worried, you would 1,000% say you were not worried about it. That said, I'm not worried about it. I think that Harrison Butker is going to return to form, having some weeks off, having what was it he had done? A surgery of some sort. I don't know exactly what it was, but having that surgery done may have just thrown him off enough. And you will remember that he began this year, every time he kicked a field goal, going down to a knee on his plant foot. We haven't seen that since he came back. So maybe just adjusting that mechanic has been the difference there. Then the number 5 idea here is Travis Kelce. Take it in. It has been a turbulent couple of seasons for Kelce, especially in the media. And while I have long contended that he will play next year in order to match his brother's career, the length of his brother's career, he very much looks up to Jason. And I thought that was probably the definitive stopping point for Travis Kelce playing next year and then retiring. I think we all have questions here. Kelce has not looked the same this year. Kelce has been doing a lot more things off the field, and he's talked about the fact that retirement is on his mind. He has talked about how difficult the seasons have become for him, have been on his body, and especially, like I said earlier, he's played 6 NFL seasons over the last 5 years because of all of the time the Kansas City Chiefs have spent in the postseason. Kelce is either the best to do it or the second best, the only question being Gronkowski, in my opinion, and a few more playoff wins, hint, hint, would really, in my opinion, tilt things towards Killer Trav. The number 6 thing to watch as the Chiefs take on the Houston Texans is Nick Bolton. Hit Stick Nick is set to be a free agent as well, and we don't know what the future holds from the middleman from Missouri. Bolton is always at his best in the biggest moments, and that means the playoffs. Nick Bolton almost always has something special up his sleeve, at least one time in the playoffs. And you will remember, he may have been the rightful MVP of the Eagles Super Bowl, and had a fumble been called a fumble, I don't think there's any way anyone else would have won that MVP, because that would have been 2 fumble return touchdowns for Nick Bolton. If memory serves me correctly, they were both returned for touchdowns on the field, right? And those were big moments. Nick Bolton, Hit Stick Nick, the middleman from Mizzou, came up massive, and there's going to be something special from Nick Bolton in this postseason run. So keep an eye on Nick Bolton. And the final thing worth watching here, the offensive game plan will be interesting. Many of us believe that Andy and the Chiefs have been holding things back all season, and this is kind of what they do all the time, in my opinion, because you only pull out the special bag when you have to. You only pull out the best plays when you need to have them. The Kansas City Chiefs have been able to not use those plays and still win 15 games. There has not been, and so when I say special plays, I don't mean the trickery. That's kind of the stuff that Andy Reid throws in for fun. What I mean is Andy Reid has wrinkles to his offense. He's going to have Xavier Worthy in motion in front of the quarterback, and sometimes it's a pitch forward to Worthy, right? You just hand it off to Worthy, he takes it and does the rest. Sometimes it's going to be fake to Worthy, hit the spot where Worthy came from, where someone's running a hitch. Other times, what it's going to be is fake to Worthy, fake to a running back. Now you've got Worthy streaking down the field because everyone forgot to cover him because he went from being a running threat to now he's running that 4-2-1 down the field, and it's over the top of the defense. That is the stuff that I'm referring to when I say that the Kansas City Chiefs and Andy Reid have special things in store, have wrinkles to the offense. We haven't seen a whole lot of plays building on plays this season. And in my opinion, it's because the Kansas City Chiefs haven't had to use them. They still won 15 games. They still got that number 1 seed. Now you will start to get to see some of the interesting wrinkles that Andy Reid has drawn up for this team. And that is when this team will become super deadly, especially as you have 2 fast-footed assassins on the field in Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy, especially as you have one guy, Nuke Hopkins, on the field that has incredible hands, and we're not even mentioning Travis Kelce. I'm not even talking about Pop Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. I think that this wide receiver core is the place from where this offense will start to develop and take off as those new wrinkles are added. That is what I have for today. Watch these things today as the Chiefs take on the Texans. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week, and I hope to have you back for the next one.